Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. I just had a call from God. He said that he was actually coming to Athens, which is pretty amazing. I think for one day, God was actually going to come down, and he was thinking about destroying the world with a new flood. But after he saw really what a tolerant and pleasant place Athens was, he's decided to change his mind, and he just wanted to come in person to thank the inhabitants of Athens and promise them all eternal life. But anyway, Matthew Barney was shooting Cremaster .5, and so he had them kitted out in these leather tunics, which actually were almost entirely covered, so that you could only really see the physique of the person. But they did have a little hole at the testicles, because through which the testicles could hang quite comfortably and in the open air, because testicles are very important to Matthew Barney, and of course the word cremaster itself means the muscle which controls testicular rising and falling, and so he wanted everybody featuring in this particular scene of Cremaster .5 to be bent over and just revealing their testicles, which would just, sway in the breeze a little bit. And so that's what Joseph and Alton ended up doing, and their testicles were immortalized in this art movie, which was seen by not only, the trustees and patrons of the Whitney Museum and every other important art institution of America, but by large publics of people in art cinemas, art theatres in all the metropolitan centres. And in fact, Athens also had an art cinema which was opened that very afternoon, and which showed non-stop programs of Jack Smith, Andy Warhol, and Jonas Mekas features. So on the whole, things were on the up and up for Athens, Folktronia. It really was becoming a much more pleasant place to live, a much more tolerant place. And I guess Joseph and Alton were the main reason that was changing. Their lectures to the school went very well, and as a result, a whole generation of Folktronian children grew up to be incredibly enlightened, tolerant individuals who knew that there were many, many possibilities for human happiness and human relationships, and that in fact the choices you make which are not programmed by biology can be far more heroic and far more essentially human than the choices which are simply the result of biological and genetic pre-programming. So, I guess there's not much more I can do apart from perhaps walk in the forest and see if the muse visits me, in which case I might be able to sing a song about the beautiful events that I've been describing. Let's see anyway. Well, the muses did come and visit me. Well, in fact, no, they didn't visit me. They visited an old lady I happened to hear singing in the forest. Her name is Yuna, and she's known for being the most misanthropic and most illiberal person in the whole of Athens. She normally spits on anybody who's deviant in any way, sends poison pen letters, and in fact she's become known as Yuna the Bomber, because she sends packages to any liberal institution, abortionist, or sort of deviant person in her mind in town, and these packages, when opened, often explode. I mean, she's not actually very good at the technology of bombs, because when you open it, sort of some flour comes out, like a cloud of flour comes out, and you cough a little bit, but that's all that happens. I mean, she makes basically cakes which go very bad and get a bit moldy and then sort of explode in a cloud of dust, but they're not really dangerous. But, she is a malicious old creature. But as I was walking in the forest just now, I heard her singing really quite a charming, well, slightly sinister, but quite liberal song for her anyway, which was about the Roman Emperor Heliogabalus. And it was almost as if this symbol, certainly for Gibbon and many other writers about the Roman Empire, symbol of decadence and sensuality, who's been maligned throughout history for his brief period of admittedly sensual overindulgence, although he was one of the few Roman emperors never to actually kill anybody, or to kill very few people, has been maligned almost because we have too little Epicurean delight for life, I think, in the modern world, and especially in Athens. But there was Yuna, and she was singing this song which really seemed to exonerate the beautiful bisexual teenage blonde Roman emperor. And I'd like to repeat what I remember of the song. Yeah, kind of like that. He caused were accidents, he committed no murders. Oh yes, some died of fright when they woke up in the night to find a leopard in the room where they'd been laid after the feast. They should have known, the silly fools, the beast was tame. Heliogabalus wasn't to blame for the deaths I'm illustrating in this quilt. Heliogabalus cannot share any guilt. Cannot share any guilt. Some lived to suffocate under the suffocating weight of 1,000 fresh-cut blooms he sent cascading from the ceiling of the room where they were laid. Upon a crowd of his admirers, how were they to know the civil rights would drown beneath the flowers? If a parasite can't swim, should we blame him? He was blonde, he had blue eyes, he was entirely without bait, as I intend to demonstrate in my Heliogabalus quilt. And the old lady was actually, Yuna was actually sewing a quilt, an illustrative quilt. With scenes of debauch, pleasant debauch from the emperor's life. They condemn his 4-year reign, his naked chariot team, the deadly snakes released in the forum at the climax of the games, his knights of gay debauchery rushing through the slums disguised as tavern pot boys, perfume sellers, barbers. Such exaggerations, such slanders. If you'd been emperor of Rome at the age of just 15, wouldn't you have done the same? So why then does his name retain the mantle of the evil, always claimed by joyless vultures to explain the strange allure of other cultures? Heliogabalus wasn't to blame. He was beautiful and sexy and completely without guilt, as I intend to demonstrate right here in this quilt. Condemn me freely if you must. But when my quilt is finished, I intend to sleep as soundly and as well as Heliogabalus in hell.